I want you to know this about this church. We believe that God's word is true. That God really did do the things that he said he did. The things that happened in Scripture really did happen. Jesus was a real person, and he wants a real relationship with you. We also believe that worship is a powerful thing. Worship connects us with God. It's a way of relating to him. And so I'm glad you're here this morning to worship with us and to pray today. We're going to ask the ushers if they would come. It's time to give this morning. Let me just say this. If this is your church, it's your time to give. If this isn't your church, you don't worry about giving today. Just thank you for being here and worshiping with us. Glad that you're here. Ushers, thank you for being here this morning. Let's pray together. Father, once again, we love you. God, I pray that you would just be with us. You would guide us today. Father, you would speak to us through the power of your word. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Amen. Go to give this morning. Can I ask my wife, would you bring me that cup right next to you? This morning, we're continuing a series of messages, and we're talking about the idea of spiritual habits. What are some spiritual habits that we should have? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this morning. I'm going to give you just a couple of thoughts. And I want to take some time as we close, and we'll have some more time of altar and prayer this morning. But I do want to just give you a couple of little things. I brought this up here for a reason. How many of you like my mug? I think it's even better when I drink out of it. And I bring this up here for a reason. 1998, just been out of high school for a short amount of time. I was in a ministry training program. And I had the opportunity to go on my very first missions trip. And one of the things they warned us about, we ended up going to England. By the way, I'd never been on a plane before. My very first plane ride was Minneapolis to Boston. Hour and a half layover, then Boston to Amsterdam. A 5-hour layover, Amsterdam to Manchester. What a way to break yourself into flying. And they warned us that we would be drinking a lot of tea. And boy, did we ever. How many tea drinkers are in the room? How many hot tea drinkers, I should clarify? How many like sweet tea, iced tea drinkers? Listen, the English love their tea. Their entire day revolves around their tea. Now, I don't have any water in this cup, but let's just pretend I had water in this cup. Got a little tea back here. Let me ask you this question. If I had water in this cup and it was piping hot, and I took this tea bag and I did this, and I pulled it out, would it be tea? No. No?
Weak tea.
Now, technically, it would be tea, right?
Yeah.
Because there'd be just a little bit of tea in there.
Yeah.
Now, if I set it in here for a few minutes, and then I squeeze it out, what would I have?
Better tea.
Better tea, right? And if you were in England, you'd add a little bit of milk and sugar in there, right? Now, what if I left it in there for 5-6 hours? I'd have some really bitter tea, right? My mom was from South Carolina, so growing up, every once in a while, she'd leave the tea, or the sweet tea, to steep a little too long, and it would get a little bitter. You say, why is that important? I want that to be an illustration. I'm going to sit down here so you can see it. Hopefully you can see the smiley face. And here's a thought I have for you this morning. The more we are dipped into the spiritual, the more the spiritual life is developed in us. See, salvation's like getting dipped in and pulled out. It's tea, but it's not really tea. Right? It's good and it's helpful and it's an experience. But the spiritual life, and I don't take this too far this morning, but I just want you to have that visual in your mind. Spiritual disciplines or spiritual habits are like the act of dipping the tea into the water. The more we practice the various habits, the stronger we grow spiritually. The disciplines and the habits make a way for Christ to be formed in us. When the water comes over the tea is now immersed into the life of the water and has no identity of its own. In the same way, when we are purchased by the forgiveness of Jesus Christ, our life is not our own. We take on a new identity. Somebody say, well, but if it's a tea and it gets too long, it gets bitter. Let me just say that's a spiritual pride. That's what that is. When we as believers become bitter, it's not what we're called to be. I'm excited about this season of fasting and prayer. There's a little brochure you can get that talks about the Daniel fast. It has in it some materials that I've gathered over the years from others who've studied these things. It's just a guide. I'm going to talk to you for just a few moments this morning about the idea of fasting. I'm excited about this season of fasting. How many of you are with me? Okay. Some of you are. But guess what? I hate fasting. I know that comes as a shock to many of you in the room. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. But here's why I'm excited. The number of years that I've been a pastor, I've seen this pattern repeated over and over. When God's people unite for a season. Hey, listen, it's not about legalism. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. In fact, I want to talk to you about some different options you have this morning. I don't really, honestly, it doesn't matter to me what you do over the next 21 days starting tomorrow. Right? You do whatever the Holy Spirit leads you to do. If you don't want to fast, don't fast. But I believe this, that when we unite together, there's some significant things that happen. I've seen during these periods of time that people, God has spoken to them to do spiritual things they would have never done otherwise. I've seen people give in ways they've never given, and God has blessed and opened doors. I've seen God birth multiple ministries. There are two ministries right now that are functioning. One is a community center in a little town in Illinois. And that community center has a gymnasium and has, they do all kinds of classes. They actually have a full-time counselor there now. And all of it is really a place where people that are hurting can go. See, they have a gym, but the gym is just the face so that everyone in the community feels comfortable there. But it's a place of prayer. It's a place that people in the community from all churches and faith backgrounds can come together, all those united under a relationship with Christ, and can minister together. Bible studies happen in times of prayer. It's an incredible ministry house. This little town. We have another ministry that was birthed. And listen, the reason I share that was all of these were birthed out of seasons of fasting and prayer. I believe that the next season of this church, that God is going to birth things in the Spirit, that He's going to speak to people in this church. There are giftings that have laid dormant in the lives of the people here. One of the things that I'm most passionate about as a pastor is helping you to discover your calling. You see, God's call for a pastor is to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. It's my job is to equip you. And one of the ways that we equip is by seasons of fasting and prayer. So that's why I'm excited. Not to eat vegetables and drink water and no coffee for the next 21 days. Right? Love my coffee. But it's a reminder of what God is doing. Jesus said this, the first slide in Matthew 6:16. I don't think I put the reference on there, but it's Matthew 6:16. Just the first three words of the verse. Sorry, go back to the previous slide. You got it. There we go. When you, what? Fast. Say those words together. When you fast. There was an assumption by Jesus that God's people would fast. When you fast. I'm going to read the rest of the verse later on. It says, when you fast. What does that mean? Pretty simple, right? When you fast. When there are those times. Now listen, I'm going to share with you some examples. There are times of corporate fasting throughout Scripture. There's also times of personal fasting. Listen, if this next 21 days doesn't work, that's okay. Find a time. Be a person who's willing. Why? Matthew 5:6 says this, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be what? Filled. There's a blessing that is attached to a hunger and a thirst for God. When we are hungry spiritually, we're hungry physically and hungry and thirsty physically, it can be a reminder to dig in and feed ourselves spiritually. That's part of the incredible blessing to a season of fasting. The Daniel fast is an opportunity, a unique opportunity, for us to hunger for the Lord. To fast other things, to put God's Word at the center, to start a new year to set our minds, to restrict our food, to deny ourselves. Why? It's because we love being miserable. No. Because we want to know Jesus more. We want to be obedient to His Word. We want to do the things that He did. We want to walk in step with Him. Psalm 107:9 says this, "For He satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry with good things." I love that picture of thirsting and being hungry. Because we get that physically, and bringing that over to the spiritual world, because it helps us to package it in a way that we understand. To be hungry and thirsty for the things of the Lord. Let me give you a couple thoughts this morning. What is fasting not? Okay? What is fasting not? Fasting is not a time to focus on what we give up. It's not 21 days to say, man, I really miss chocolate. Every day waking up, I wish I had my coffee. I wish I could have a snack. I wish I could have some pie. Whatever your thing is. Okay? It's not what it's about. And actually, those things serve as a reminder of, that's a reminder, I need to pray. I need to spend time with God, spend time in His Word. Another thing is, it's not a diet. Okay? It's not like some fad eating plan. In fact, I've seen over the years, many people, when they do the Daniel fast, they eat vegetables and drink water, they're surprised by how much weight they don't lose. They feel ripped off or something. I don't know what it is. It's not a diet. All right? It's not what it's about. It's not about impressing others. In fact, the rest of Matthew 6:16 says this, "When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do. They disfigure their faces and show others that they are fasting. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full." It's interesting. And Jesus goes on in this passage to teach about fasting. He talks about keeping it to yourself. Now listen, that's context. It's specifically about when you feel sensing God leading you to fast individually. There are also moments throughout, in fact, the Jewish people had in their calendar, there were moments of community fasting that happened throughout the year. There were moments when they were called to a fast. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're calling a fast for the church. And the last thing fasting is not, it's not just something to get through. All right? It's not just something you're like, I'm just going to get through this. All right? There's an excitement to this. What are the kinds of fasts? Here's where I want to get very practical for just a couple of moments. We've kind of promoted a Daniel fast for the next 21 days, starting tomorrow, ending Sunday 27th. All right? Listen, if you don't want to do the Daniel fast, don't do the Daniel fast. If you don't want to do 21 days, guess what? Don't do 21 days. In fact, I would say this, if you've never fasted before, going after a 21-day Daniel fast as your very first fast is probably not a good idea. Because you're going to get about a few days in and you're going to be hating life and hating me and mumbling and grumbling. Right? It's not about that. It's about you digging in. So I want there to be wisdom in the house today. I do want you to press yourself. If you fasted before, maybe you've done the Daniel fast for 7 days, why don't you push it to 10 or 14? Listen, it's not about the amount. It's about, are we repositioning ourselves in a way where we can hear from God? There are different kind of fasts that are talked about. You can choose any one of these. There's the absolute fast. Absolute fast means exactly what it sounds like. No liquids, no foods. By the way, this should never be done for more than 3 days. Never, okay? Not a good idea. It's talked about in Scripture. Absolute fast is where you literally deny yourself of all things. Now, I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Listen, if you're a diabetic, you have health issues, talk to your doctor, all right? I'm not telling you, if the Daniel fast goes completely against what you can eat, come up with another plan. Right? Again, this isn't legalism. This is denying ourselves what we consider the good things so we can focus. And guys, I'll give you the example for just a moment. There's what we call normal fasts, where people just drink water for a specific amount of time. Right? A selective fast, that's the Daniel fast. I'm going to share the scripture with you in just a moment where that comes from. There's also what's called a partial fast or a Jewish fast. This involves abstaining from eating anything from sunup to sundown. There's a soul fast. I would encourage you, a lot of you to include this in your Daniel fast. A soul fast includes cutting out social media, TV, and media of any kind to create time for God. I don't know about you, if I didn't do this, then I have time for this. Sometimes I don't have time for extra things, right? But I probably have time. So one of the things that we're going to do in our family, and we do the family, the whole family. Now the kids aren't going to necessarily do all the Daniel fast or maybe parts of it with us as they grow in their faith walk. But the whole family is doing a multi-day media fast. Meaning TVs are off. There's no devices. There's nothing. The only reason that mom and dad can be on their cell phone is if they're answering a call, a text message, or maybe checking email. That's about it. All right? Amazing, using a phone to be a phone. That was a little snarky, wasn't it? And then there's a supernatural fast. These, I've only mentioned these because they're the fasts in the scripture. Moses, in the presence of the Lord on the mountain, went 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate or drank. Exodus 34:24. And Jesus, as he launched his ministry, went 40 days without food or drink. I've never met anyone who's done that. Read about it in Scripture. That's a supernatural thing. That is not something that I'm just going to leave it at that. I shouldn't have to give any qualifiers for that. If you go over 3 days without drinking water, it's not a good thing, right? So just be cautious with that. So there's lots of different kinds of fasts. My goal as your pastor is this: choose one. You choose the amount of time. Again, this is not a legislated thing. This is a you choose. Okay? If in the middle of it it's your birthday and your grandma makes you her famous German chocolate cake, don't offend grandma. You can take one meal off from the fast. You can have a piece of her world famous German chocolate cake and not feel guilty or feel like you're sinned the unpardonable sin. Take a day off. You can add another, whatever you want to do. All right? Again, do you get where I'm going this morning? This isn't about all of those things. I'm not talking about you walking in Hy-Vee and you're like, ooh, they have German chocolate cake. It's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about you hearing from God and you putting a plan together and you spending time. But I do want you to push yourself. If you fasted before, fast differently. Some of you say, you may just say, I'm just going to do water for 7 days. I'm just going to do that kind of a fast. You do what you sense like God is pushing you forward. If you're not clear on it, I would encourage you to do the Daniel fast. We've got the information there that will help you. Why fast? Because fasting is a powerful spiritual habit. Fasting denies ourselves for a specific time. Fasting allows us space to create more time for God. Fasting with prayer and reading God's Word develops intimacy with Him. There's a couple patterns. Let me just answer the Daniel question really quick. I was going to spend more time on this, but I'm not going to, just to save a little time today. But let me just give you a thought this morning. In Daniel chapter 1, King Nebuchadnezzar had defeated Jerusalem, carried off the best of the young men of the land. They weren't necessarily slaves. In fact, Scripture says they're handsome, they're intelligent, they're strong. They're to enter 3 years of training. And in Daniel 1, Daniel and some of the guys that are with him later, they get renamed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But these 3 guys, actually 4 guys, are together. And Daniel says this, he says, listen, I don't want to defile myself. And he eats only vegetables and water. This is in Daniel 1. This isn't necessarily where the Daniel fast comes from. I just want to give you a little idea of what's going on here. The reason Daniel does this is because the food was coming from the king's table, and the food had been offered to idols. And Daniel says, I want to defile myself. And because Daniel makes a sacrifice, because the food was good, the drink was good, it was the best, it was the king's food. It was incredible to look at it, to eat. It would have been a blessing to these people that had been pulled from their homelands. But Daniel says, I don't want to defile myself. There was a 10-day test issued. And in Daniel 1, 17 through 20, the scriptures will be on the screen. I want to read you what happened. These 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning. And Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds, which, as we know, becomes really important later. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them into his service, the chief officials presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service in a matter of wisdom, in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them. He found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. Nebuchadnezzar brought the wisest of all the peoples that had been conquered from literally across the known world at that time. And it wasn't because they were handsome and they were smart and they're from royal families, but it was because of the blessing of God. Listen, there's a blessing attached to when we do the things we know to be right. You flip over to Daniel chapter 10. Those years of training had went by. Daniel went through a number of things. At this time, scholars believe Daniel was around 85 years of age. God continues to give him dreams and visions. And in those dreams and visions, Daniel foresees the result of the Jewish people and their sin. He also sees them destroying the Messiah and rejecting the gospel. Daniel chapter 10, verses 2 and 3 say this: At that time I, Daniel, mourned. For how long? 3 weeks. I ate no choice food, no meat or wine touched my lips. I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. Much of what's in your Daniel Fast pamphlet comes from a scholarly understanding of the foods that would have been available to Daniel at that time. Very simply, you cut off the choice foods, you would have vegetables and water. Okay? Again, not a legalistic thing, it's just something we understand. But there's something important that happens. During Daniel's fast, we find this moment. It's one of the really peculiar scriptures we have about spiritual warfare, where Daniel finds out at the end of this time of fasting and prayer that the Lord had heard his prayer and in fact had sent the answer at the moment he began to pray. But there's some spiritual warfare that happened in the meantime. You can read it for yourself later. And Daniel begins to have this vision from the Lord, and this understanding is relayed to him. One of the things I've noticed over the years, that almost every time, the very first time I did a 21-day Daniel fast, I was so frustrated. By day 20, I just said to the Lord, I said, what's the purpose? I was frustrated. And here's why I was frustrated. I was expecting to have this incredible encounter with God. I was expecting to have this Daniel encounter, and God would strike me in public. I'd be on my face before God, and an angel would appear, and he would download all his wisdom and glory to me. And what I had was a really bad headache for about 3 days because I didn't drink coffee. I got through the caffeine, drank lots of water. I was hungry all the time. I don't really like vegetables. I spent a lot of days not even eating because it was like, it's just easier because who wants broccoli again? And I get to day 20 and I had no spiritual insight whatsoever into whatever God was going to do. Here's the great lesson I learned in that. Day 21 came and gone, and literally I got done, I laid down my journal, and I thought, well, that was a waste of time. And here's what I found: it's often when the fast is over that God speaks the clearest.
Yeah.
It's just a word of encouragement. I'm not saying you may be one of those select people where day one God just like, oh. I hope that happens for you. But if it doesn't, did I do that okay? If it doesn't, can I encourage you, whatever God speaks to you, would you just press through and press in? One of the things that Daniel got, and I want you to hear this morning. One of the things that Daniel got, he was focused on the needs, and he was broken and grieved for the people he loved. Maybe, just maybe, one of the greatest things that could come out of this is that we would be broken over those who still reject Jesus as Lord and Savior. We would be broken over our communities. One of the things I believe with all of my heart, that God is calling us as a church to be a regional church. You say, what do you mean by that? I believe that God is calling us to provide an opportunity for a clear presentation of the gospel to every person within the 30-mile radius of us. Why? Because there's so many people in this area. It's not just this community, but this community kind of going out in all directions. Nebraska and the counties around us, and just us as we engage with people, them having an opportunity to experience the life-giving power of Jesus. I believe there are going to be people that come to know Christ through this church that aren't going to end up in this church. Because I believe God wants us to be a blessing to this community and to this area. Not just for us. See, God's blessings are spiritual. We're the church of Jesus Christ. Just a couple perspectives on fasting. Jehoshaphat declared a fast for all of Judah in 2 Chronicles 20. Ezra proclaimed a fast for all of Israel. Nehemiah fasted after hearing the walls of Jerusalem had been broken. Queen Esther and all the Jews, she asked all the Jews to fast before she went before the king. Luke chapter 2 says that Anna fasted and prayed regularly. Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in Matthew chapter 4. Fasting is an important thing. As I close this morning, I want to ask whoever's going to play at the end if they would come. Fasting, what does it do? Jesus fasted at the beginning of his ministry. Fasting is a battle. Listen, prepare yourself. Spiritual warfare is real. Fasting doesn't happen without some spiritual warfare. Listen, if you've never fasted before, I cannot impress upon you the importance of having a spiritual mentor, someone you respect, someone that's praying along with you. Hey, this is what I believe God's calling me to. Would you pray with me? Someone you can talk to as you go through this battle. Fasting gives us victory over the enemy. Fasting empowers us for ministry. Fasting acknowledges our complete dependency upon God. Fasting is life-changing. Fasting breaks the bonds. Listen, if you struggle with addiction, you struggle with things in your life, there's something powerful about fasting. God has the ability to break things in our life. Listen, if you have physical issues, let me just encourage you again. Talk to your doctor. This isn't about this one thing. It's about you setting aside the time for God. I don't just use that as an excuse, but do what you can do. Be smart. I would encourage all of us in this room to pull back from some of the distractions. You know, these things are incredibly handy. They can be incredibly distracting. What if you just use this half the time you normally do and spend that other half that you would be on this seeking God? And maybe read the Bible in here. That's okay. But I'm talking about the other things that occupy our time. So what do we replace food with? What do we replace our media time with? We replace it with prayer, with reading God's Word, with believing God's promises. You restrict your food intake, you take time to praise God and to worship. Last thought is, don't be discouraged. It's often at the end that God speaks to us. Church family, I'm going to ask you to stand this morning. Here's how I want to close. I want to give you some time to pray through what God wants you to do. Also recognize there's some needs in the house today. So I'm going to ask that our prayer team that's here this morning that you've been asked to pray, would you just come and make yourselves available? If you're not on the prayer team this morning, would you just bow your heads, close your eyes where you're at. I want to pray over you today. And then these altars are open. We're going to have some music going, and there's space to see God. If you need someone to pray with you, there are people here, men and women of God, who want to pray over you and to pray with you. So I want to encourage you today. James tells us to call the elders of the church, have anointed us well, and to pray for us. That's simply what this is. A time to minister before the Lord. Father, I pray for your people today. Holy Spirit, I pray you'd speak to them. God, I pray you would challenge us. As we enter this season of fasting and prayer, I'm excited what you're going to speak to those in this room who seek you. God, your word promises that when we draw near to you, you draw near to us. There's a gulf that's created often by our actions and our attitudes. And God, we're choosing to set aside time at the beginning of this year to just seek you today. God, I pray for wisdom over your people today. God, I pray for understanding. God, I pray for strength. Lord, I pray you would speak the power of your Holy Spirit today. If you're in this room, you know Jesus, we're just begin to pray. The altars are open. You can come if you need prayer today. If you're in this room and you don't know Jesus, listen, I want you to know something. We've talked about it, but he's here. He wants a relationship with you. So I want you to know this. We believe The relationship with Jesus is all about confessing our sin and inviting Christ into our life. And so I'm down here as well. And if you don't have that relationship with Jesus, I'd like to talk to you. I'd love to pray with you to come and to know him today. So I'm here waiting for you. If you need a relationship with Jesus, I'd love to pray with you today. Father, bless your people. Go with them today. Strengthen them. God, I pray that you would speak like you've never spoken before. God, may the season of fasting and prayer be the ignition point in what you're wanting to do in this place. Lord, I love you, and I thank you now in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Bless you guys. These altars are open. I love you. Have a great week.